Hello my dear friends, my name is Dr. Kafi and I am the lead consultant at Kafi & Associates. We specialize in 4 HR dimensions. Number 1 is driving organization's performance to a whole new level. Number 2 is accelerating major transformations, enabling the organization to profit from changing economic and technological landscape. Number 3 is result-oriented leadership development processes ensuring business continuity and consistent success. Number 4 is senior level local and international staffing solutions based on absolute confidentiality and trust. Please connect with us if you wish to know more about us or any of our program. Now, coming back to our topic of Performance Management System Information Series, we discussed in the previous episodes the science and research leading to this model of PPPMS, Psychologically Positive Performance Management Contract between employees and the organization. This model requires 6 deliverables from the organization and 6 deliverables from the employees based on Jean-Jacques Rousseau's social contract of promissory and reciprocity in 1762. Coupled with Frederick Taylor's management experiment in 1911, infused with Abraham Maslow's theory of needs in 1943, and Friedrich Hellberg's two-factor theory in 1959. Based on these 6 deliverables from both parties, the organization as well as the employees, a psychologically positive performance management system can be developed fairly easily. Now, most of the performance management systems available today in the market focus on all 6 deliverables from the employees, whereas on the part of organization deliverables, it is limited to only compensation deliverables, which makes this process more penal in nature. Though some organizations also make the development of the employee a part of the performance management process, but this mostly remains undelivered except for a select few. Other 4 are mostly entirely absent from the organization or are dealt with separately out of the scope of performance management process. This is a very big mistake and is one of the major reasons of performance management failure and its notoriety. Only a handful of companies across the globe deliver all 6 organization deliverables to the employee within the PMS. If we look closely at this PPPMS model, we realize that many companies celebrate Employee of the Month and use other methods to celebrate employee success. However, it is mostly outside the scope of the performance management process. Ensuring 360-degree relationship is also managed outside the performance management process in many organizations. Employee of the Month, 360-degree feedback, and many other such good intention programs, when conducted outside the scope of performance management system, fail to create the powerfully positive psychological contract. This ultimately results in making these programs lose value over time and render performance management process a past-oriented penal process instead of a forward-looking, psychologically binding performance improvement process ensuring consistent high performance year on year. I am sure you have noticed that these 6 deliverables are more relevant to the private sector organizations. But what about public sector organizations? These public sector organizations have a very different set of rules, environment, infrastructure, and very different performance criteria. Therefore, before we discuss the performance management in public sector or in bureaucratic structures, we need to understand the theory of bureaucracy as propounded by Maximilian Karl Emil Weber, famously known as Max Weber. He was a German sociologist, historian, jurist, and political economist who was one of the central figures in the development of sociology and the social sciences more generally. His ideas continue to influence social theory and research even today. Max Weber is thought to be the mastermind of the theory of bureaucracy, who declared that there must be a set of rules to guide the authorities in carrying out the official duties. He also opined that there must be a set of pre-qualifications and prerequisites to join the bureaucracy along with the structure of hierarchy. He made it mandatory for officials to be impartial in discharging their duties without any loyalty to the ruler. He thought that the officers must be appointed for life with the relevant pension and retirement benefits and must undergo periodic trainings to keep them abreast of how the work is done in public offices. This theory by Max Weber is still valid for the civil service of most or all the developing countries, including Pakistan, and we can see and taste its flavor in the operation and structure of the government sector in Pakistan. However, since we inherited the colonial structure which was primarily designed to keep the subjects subjugated, therefore the check and balance of the structure proposed by Max Weber never came into practice in Pakistan and in many other developing countries. This allowed the political and military leadership to capitalize on and exploit this weakness of the system to the detriment of the people of many developing countries, including Pakistan. The best and most simplistic government structure, in my view, was put forward by Thomas Woodrow Wilson, who served as the 28th President of the United States of America from 1913 to 1921. He is considered the father of public administration in the United States. He first formally recognized public administration in his June 1887 article titled as The Study of Administration. He wrote that it is the object of administrative study to discover first what government can properly and successfully do, and secondly, how it can do these proper things with the utmost possible efficiency and at the least possible cost either of money or of energy. The words of Thomas Woodrow Wilson are so important that they must be repeated again and again to bring clarity in the works of the government. So let me repeat it again. It is the object of administrative study to discover first what government can properly and successfully do, and secondly, how it can do those proper things with the utmost possible efficiency and at the least possible cost, either of money or of energy. This means his words can be divided into two major streams. First is, governments must know what to do and what not to do. Political and military leadership in many developing countries, including Pakistan, run commercial enterprises, creating hubs for corruption, embezzlement, and nepotism. Second part of Thomas Woodrow Wilson's public sector governance model is all about efficiency, which looks fairly simple, but it is not as simple as it looks. Keeping in view the size of the public sector organizations as well as the number and diversity of their stakeholders. Therefore, as said earlier, psychologically positive performance management system for public sector organizations in developing countries will look very different as they operate in a very different environment with a very different infrastructure and very different set of rules. This requires many wheels of the performance management system to turn simultaneously, just like the wheels of a car. However, the size, width, height, grooves, etc. will have to be adjusted to fit the terrain of public sector organizations. Let us discuss these wheels one by one. First wheel is the performance measurement. It is important to measure the input and output of a particular process or a system. In private sector, the performance measurement is focused on things like profitability, market share, sales, cost of raw materials, etc. etc. However, it may not be relevant for most of the public sector organizations. Hence, the stepsisters predicament. If the shoe doesn't fit, get another. We need a new set of performance measurements for public sector organizations like outcome of the intended policy, efficiency and effectiveness of the program, and most importantly, transparency. Second wheel is the performance evaluation, which comes with a set of consequences. In private sector, it is done through a rating scale or ranking system which can translate into salary increases and bonuses in accordance with the evaluation. In public sector, this may mean a whole new world, requiring the entire system to be upside down. Here we must remember the Titanic warning. It's what you can't see that can sink you. Professor Dennis M. Daly from North Carolina State University writes in his article Performance Appraisal in North Carolina Municipalities, published in July 1991. Daly says judgmental techniques, which are more prevalent, follow the old command and control model of authority. They are quite explicitly linked to extrinsic rewards. In fact, the existence and adequacy of the reward structure is an important subsidiary question with regard to their effectiveness. This has proved an important limitation in their use among public sector agencies. Therefore, in public sector organizations, we need new set of rules for interpreting performance measurement information, criteria, and the consequences to go with it. Just like we needed new set of rules for performance measurement, First General comes with the interpretation of performance measurement information to justify money spent by the government. This requires a three-dimensional approach: the outcome of the intended policy, efficiency and effectiveness of the program, and the transparency. Second challenge is the consequence, which is the constraint by the laws of the government, political interference, and historically embedded corrupt practices in our bureaucratic hierarchy down to the core, from top down to bottom up. Remember the Heisenberg dilemma. Be aware of the law of unintended consequences. On the face of it, it looks difficult to overcome this three-dimensional challenge of evaluation, and it certainly looks impossible to break free from the three-dimensional chain of consequences. In other words, are we saying that we, the citizens of developing countries, including Pakistan, will never see the light of the day? We will never be able to see the promised results of the performance management movement, which has proved so helpful in many of the developed countries? No. No one is saying it cannot be implemented in developing countries, including Pakistan. But we'll come to this in the coming episode. But first, let us see where the third wheel takes us. Third wheel is the capacity building of the incumbents to continuously and consistently improve the performance so that the bar continues to go higher and higher and standards continue to improve. Private sector manages it through training in the current role and development for the future roles. In public sector, training is treated as a reward and used for select few, which in turn destroys the spirit of development and the need to put in practice the newly learned skills by the individuals. More importantly, training must be used to improve the performance standards. As Dennis M. Daly notes, that performance standards are meant to anchor an appraisal system to specific job-related tasks in as much as they are consistent with written policy, job descriptions. They reinforce this connection between job and assessment of an employee's performance in the job. In addition, they help to communicate to the employee a clear understanding of job expectations. Fourthly is the process of implementation of performance management system, which requires lot of effort, commitment from the political leadership, bureaucratic leadership, military leadership, and the citizens. It also requires scientific techniques of change management principles to implement such a major change. Absence of this wheel has practically nullified every effort of the establishment division to promote performance management systems in developing countries and Pakistan. This wheel requires more detailed analysis and discussion, which we will do in the coming episodes.
Book your appointment now through our website cafe.com.pk or email us at info@cafe.com.pk. Please follow Cafe Associates on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter X, TikTok, Instagram.